McKenzie County, and welcome to Season 1, Episode 7 of the podcast, Living in McKenzie County. We have an exciting episode today. And before we launch into that and talk about what we're going to talk about for the next hour to hour and a half, so set your phone up, start your supper, clean your garage, do the things, and hang with us for our long-form casual conversation on career work experience, CWE, from an employer perspective, and also Job Service North Dakota, the lay of the land, all things workforce and employment. So before we get started, because we will kick it around the room for self-introductions, I just want to point out that we're filming today and it is Monday morning after the Super Bowl. So before we get into all of that, does anybody want to do a quick summary of your Sunday Super Bowl?
Ooh, that's a good question. I did bookwork while I watched the Super Bowl. Yeah. With my family was downstairs and I was upstairs, and whenever they screamed, I would look at the TV. Oh, yeah.
Were there any Viking shirts being worn?
There was Viking shirts.
Okay,
yes, definitely.
That's what I wore yesterday.
Yeah, next year we'll wear them during the Super Bowl when the Vikings are playing. Yeah, that's what's going to happen.
Okay.
Manifest.
Let's make a note of that and then have a alternative strategy just in case.
That's a good point.
I guess I had to ask my husband after church, are there's a game today. Are we going to watch it? We don't usually watch football, but we actually did sit down. I was really craving some food from a restaurant in town. Turns out most of them are closed on Sundays.
Sure.
So we dug into our freezer, just, microwaved and cooked a bunch of freezer food, junk food, and shuttled kids to play dates and watched the game as much as we could.
Sounds fun.
It was fun. Yeah.
Did you yell and throw things at the TV?
I did not. No, we kind of gave up at halftime and put our kids to bed. So it was time to be done.
Beautiful.
We are not football watchers. My husband's been on the football field, but it's to play the tenor sax.
Oh,
cool.
Yes.
Okay.
Very cool.
So that's as close to football as we get.
Interesting. I don't know what yesterday was. The football game was pretty disappointing. The halftime show was equally or more so disappointing. But I loved one of the commercials, which is the Nike women empowerment commercial. And so I was watching shorts and longs of that today. And so to me,
I'll have to look that
was
one up.
kind of
I always
the
go back to find those. That's what I like.
Caitlin Clark.
Oh, was
Can't deny
that
it.
who was on there?
Oh, her
we
and
love
many
her.
other,
Love that.
yeah, it was so cool. So
Very neat.
anyway, let's tip our hats to Nike.
Love
for
that.
taking-
John Nike.
John Baptiste did a wonderful job for the.
He did. Yep.
Yeah.
The
we did
opening.
watch.
Yeah.
That was really, and Lauren Daigle,
Mhm.
that was the opening. That was beautiful. Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. So that's our summary. Yeah.
That's
Pretty
what
good.
we watched.
Good stuff. So here we are, Monday morning after Super Bowl, and I want to go around the room and we're going to do self-introductions. And if you fail to include some of your self-introduction points, I have a few notes, but we'll cover those as the hour progresses. So Nikki, let's start with you.
Okay.
Again, we're focusing on all things career work experience.
Okay.
Just a little bit of background. We had CWE as a topic a couple episodes ago, and that was focusing on the students and their experience. So Watford City High School has one of the most mature, longest running career work experience programs in North Dakota, possibly even the country. I haven't done the history, but I feel that. And Daniel was on with a panel here a month ago and talked about it from a student perspective. Today, we're going to spend time talking about it from twofold. Former participants of the program, and not necessarily both here at Watford City High School, but Chelsea also experienced CWE where she graduated. So we're going to have you all introduce, and then we're going to just kind of continue around the table and talk about the upcoming opportunity that employers in McKenzie County have to participate in CWE and the benefits to doing that. So, Nikki, if you can introduce yourself, please.
Absolutely. So my name is Nikki Darrington, and I am the District Conservationist for the Natural Resources Conservation Service here for McKenzie County. And we help farmers help the land. So that's what I get to do. And I feel like I work with the best group of people in the world. So I'm pretty lucky there. But we have a CWE student usually every year, except this year. We don't have one this year. So that was kind of sad. But we have really utilized the program and have loved it. And as you mentioned, I love that you use the word mature. That makes me feel really good. Ancient is probably the word that I would use, but I was a CWE student many years ago. I got to work for Joyce Moe at the flower shop, and it was the best experience ever. So yeah.
I'm curious. I do want to get around the table with introductions.
Sure.
But how did that experience with Joyce drive your direction? Because you fell right into your pathway and kept going.
Yes. Joyce was, well, first of all, she was just like the best boss ever. I had the best experience there. She would let me be very creative. She knew I was really interested in native plants. And so she kind of would start buying native plants and start letting me, experiment with those plants. And so I really got to know things that way. Horticulture world, the greenhouse, I fell in love with that, all things plants. And that's how I kind of got into my career. Mr. Pelton helped a tremendous amount as well. He was always there to talk about plants. He loved plants just as equally as much as I did. So, that really helped guide me to where I wanted to go. I at first thought I was going to be an agriculture teacher, ag, as some people say.
EGG, AG.
AG teacher. And then I got into college and I was kind of like, man, I don't know if I really care for high school students at this point in my life. So I thought that might not be something I should go into. So talking with Mr. Pelton, he had kind of said, well, what about NRCS? You love working with farmers and ranchers and, you always loved horticulture and that kind of thing. So that's kind of how I got into what I do. So I really do think it started with Joyce Moe. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, super fun time. Super fun time in my life. We had a ball there all the time. Yeah. Cool. I should tell you a story. So what do flower shops do? One of the big things is prom, right? And so for prom, all of these girls were coming in and ordering their corsages. And I was like, Joyce, when do I get to pick out mine? And when do I get to pick out all the stuff for mine and the flowers? And she said, oh, don't you worry. I'm going to make you a special one. And so you just don't worry. I know your color of your dress. Just have no fear. I'll pick it out. So time went on and I never saw an order form with my name on it. And I was kind of getting stressed out, but Joyce kept reassuring me everything was going to be fine. And that morning of prom, I was at Hair West back then, getting my hair done. And here comes Joyce and Eleanor Costed with my corsage. And it is this massive corsage that you have to put on your shoulder. It had like these things that attached to my shoulder and it like went in front of my face and down below and up above. And at first I didn't know if she was joking or not. And she says, so this is so those boys can't smooch on you. This is your corsage. She is of course joking and she gave me my real one, but we had a lot of fun. Yeah.
Defense. She was playing defense.
Yes, she
I love
was.
it.
She was really good at that.
Awesome. Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, Chelsea, give us your intro, please.
My intro, geez. Chelsea Bulzomi, practice manager at Legendary Smiles, which means I just kind of do everything behind the scenes. They don't trust me with patients, so you won't see me there often, but just kind of handle all the office work and employee management behind the scenes.
And so Legendary Smiles is our Main Street dentist shop service clinic. Tell us just a little bit about the health careers opportunities that Legendary Smiles offers for students.
Yeah, so we've had CWE students since 2020. We moved into our new location here on Main Street in 2019. And after that, we had more rooms, so we invited in CWE students. Our students are dental assistants, so they're there to they sanitize equipment, flip rooms, stock our shelves and our supplies, make the hygiene bags that our patients go home with. And, sometimes they sit at the front desk, help shred papers and check in patients. And sometimes, they're just kind of running errands for us. So.
Excellent. So Nikki shared a little bit about her CWE experience in Watford. Can you share just a little bit about yours, because yours was not in Watford City?
Right. Yeah. So I grew up here in Watford City, but in 2003, my family moved across the state because, we kind of ran out of career opportunities here in Watford City. I was a sophomore when we moved, and our senior year of high school, we got to go do something similar to CWE, but not as robust. I don't even know how I got paired, but I got paired. I never intended to be a teacher. It was not something I would have ever applied for, but I worked in the elementary school special ed department, helping the special ed teacher with her students. It was interesting. I really enjoyed it, but not a career path I knew I was going to go down. There, they did not have a lot of industry partners, so it was hard to find positions for most students. But I will say their medical careers department, those students did, I think my graduating class has 11 doctors from it.
Wow, that's
And they had a really unique program where those students rotated between all the medical providers in the town and shadowed. My husband is a dentist here in Watford City. We have a pharmacist here in Watford City from that program.
Wow.
So here in Watford, we are benefiting from that. But yeah, it was a little different for most of us students, but the medical careers department really had a lot of unique opportunities to shadow.
Excellent. And I'm not going to lie, we are very happy that you brought a dentist back to Watford
Yes.
City and run a very, very excellent clinic.
Thank you.
Yeah.
One of the local services we definitely appreciate here.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to just switch gears just a little. Susan, can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do?
I'm a jack of all trades, master of none. Susan Granrud. I am the job service manager up in Williston, North Dakota. We take care of 3 counties. We focus on Divide, Williams, and McKenzie County. So that's part of the reason why I'm down here. We're also going to be over at the Basque this afternoon to kind of meet with some local providers, local employers, try to get our information out. I started in recruiting, and I recruited for the oil field, and I got to know the staff over at the job service. And then this position came up, and I got a phone call, and that's where I'm on the other side of the table now.
And so I think probably our very loyal listeners know well enough that Pat Bertinoli, who was in Watford City before he moved to Bismarck, is your boss.
Yes, he's our director. So he works and lives out of Bismarck, and he oversees all the job services here in the state of North Dakota. So right now he's in Bismarck and working with the legislators because they're in the middle of their budget reviews. So that's what we're all waiting on now to find out what we're get to look forward to this year.
So in addition to certifying unemployment claims, job service offices across the state, including Region 1, do a lot of other things that are beneficial to employers and employees. Do you want to share a little bit about those services?
So one of the things that I want to do is I'm going to correct you just a little bit because there is some misinformation out there. We are not the unemployment office. Unemployment, we do support them, and people come into our offices and they can use our computers and register and do the certifications. And then all of the unemployment individuals that work for the unemployment side of things work remotely. So we do connect them, though. They can use our phones, they can connect that way. So what we are is the reemployment office. So we manage different federal programs. Kind of excited to hear about what you guys do, and I think we're going to have to pick our brains or your brains for a little bit because we do have some federal programs where we can help kids do on-the-job training, work-based learning. We can help fund some of that, and so it's just trying to get our employees involved with that. So that's where our struggle has been because people look at us as the unemployment. One of the other things we do is we work with the employers, and it is a free charge to them to be registered with us. And what we do, one of the things that I really recommend is employers coming in, they register with us and then they get vetted. We vet them to make sure that they are with WSI, with workforce safety, with unemployment, they're registered, they're following all the protocols they need to do to be registered in the state of North Dakota. So that's one of the reasons why we recommend people coming through. They might go through their economic development and chamber, but come to us, they can register for free. And then we can help in regards to we promote any kind of positions that you have open. One of the things as employers, you can go into our website and you can find people that have put up their resumes and are looking for jobs. You can search that way. If you wanted to do any kind of hiring events, we participate by either promoting what you're doing in your office, or you can come to our office and we can promote that as well. So we do a lot of social media. So what we do is basically, and then we work with the employee or job seekers as they come in. They can use our sites to build a resume, do what we call the big interview. It's an AI program where they can get in there and practice their interview skills. They can use all of our services in regards to job searching. One of the things that we hear a lot is, I've applied all over the place, and Indeed, I don't hear anything back. And with Indeed, what we try to explain to them is that's kind of, it's a bottom scraper. They take open positions, they continue posting those open positions, so it may not be truly an open position. So we do recommend that when they come in, go to that job site, go to the actual website, go see what's in there. So my staff is very good about coaching, helping them through with the resume writing, cover letters, all of that. So basically what we are is we are a connecting point for employers and job seekers. There.
Excellent.
Very neat.
Thank you. And specifically today, our office and several other offices or
Different businesses.
are meeting to figure out how to better connect people in the Watford City area with your office to help heighten awareness.
Yes. So that's what we're trying to do, is find out what exactly are the needs down here. How can we help accommodate in regards to what we can provide here and what we can do in regards to what we are doing in Williston, if we can maybe do some things more virtually or be present. So that we're kind of on a fact-finding mission later on this afternoon.
And potentially deploying some very unique and first-generation type services, a little bit of
I don't want to let
that cat out of the bag, but a little bit
we know how it's going to
a
work.
little bit of innovation in our minds as
one of the things that I've learned with what we are doing is we have to think outside that box. What worked even 2 years ago, 5 years ago, is not working any longer. So that's some of the things that we can kind of get into in regards to what the workforce looks like.
Yes, excellent. So kind of what is next on my list here is theming the day is building a people pipeline. And so we can probably visit a little bit about this, but in 2020 and, the subsequent couple years after that, we saw a mass exodus of our core workforce. And, just the sizes of the generations of workforce, the baby boomers, we just saw such a large contraction in those numbers and those heading towards retirement. I would say let's first do it from a local employer standpoint. Nikki and Chelsea, what have you done in government and private health service to adjust or pivot and attack workforce with this shrinking pool and population?
That's a good question. Do you want to go first? Do you want me to?
Yeah.
Go for it.
I guess, for us, the hardest position, we've been very lucky to recruit doctors here. We have our third dentist returning to Watford City next month. Excited to have her back. So we'll have 3 dentists in our office. We're able to train our dental assistants on site. So we're able to, hire people just with an interest in the dental career and be able to train them on site. But that hard to fill position is the dental hygienist. And since COVID, it's become a nationwide issue. But it's always been an issue out here in Western North Dakota. Our only school in the state is in Wahpeton until next year. There's a school opening in Minot for dental hygiene. But in the meantime, we have had that position opened for almost 10 years, multiple hygiene positions. So in the meantime, our doctors have been doing hygiene, which isn't ideal. They're, busy enough doing their work, but to add hygiene patients onto their workload is challenging. So that is a big reason why we started participating in the CWE program. We just recognize we're going to need to build our own workforce. And so with that, we currently have one of our CWE students from 2 years ago, I think. She is in school in Wahpeton. We're looking forward to having her come home. We're currently expanding our office, and I asked her mom recently, like, she is coming back, isn't she? Because we're building out space for her. But yeah, we just, we needed to build our own workforce and find somebody, since our only school is 6 hours away. We had to find somebody who we knew would want to live and work in Watford City. In the meantime, we've had advertisements out there. We've been working with Job Service. We've done all the traditional recruiting, but it looks like we're going to fill that need with the CW program. Thank you.
Can I ask a follow-up question to that, Chelsea? And I probably am bringing to light a service, and we'll get into how employers listening to the podcast, which drops the third Tuesday of the month, and this Watford City High School CWE program will be accepting employers through the end of the month. So there'll be about a window, or a 1 week window of time frame where employers could onboard to the program for next year. Because with the growing junior class that will be seniors, they are actually looking for more employer partnerships. But my question to you, so the platform that the high school uses is Compass, Golden Pass Solutions, and all employers use that. And that has multiple facets, but one of them is a formal contract where employers participate in future employees' education. Have you looked at that at all, or have you been able to forge those relationships without that?
Yeah, Patrick and I have talked about it. We have looked at it. There's still some questions out there about how exactly we would implement any sort of contract like that with a student. It's definitely something we're interested in pursuing if a student wants to come and, set up that relationship before they start school. But we have not participated yet.
Perfect. It's kind of new and emerging, but I think it's getting to the point where to grow that pipeline, employers are starting to look at things they haven't done before.
Right.
So.
Right.
Okay.
And I know that, a lot of education, a lot of teachers have gone down that path before, but it's not something that's very familiar in the healthcare industry. So, but we are definitely open to it.
Awesome. Thank you.
If I may just comment, what a success that CWE is just for that alone, to recognize that this is something she really wants to do. And as an employer, I think it takes a lot of patience to wait. You want it now. You want that employee now, but you have to really think ahead and go to them when they're a junior in high school to expect them to come to work for you in like 4 more years. So
and I would say
a success.
With that, the CWE program in my mind starts even earlier. It starts in middle school.
100%.
That's when we have those students coming in and job shadowing. And we're trying to sell them a career in dentistry then, so that they can set themselves up to be our CWE student their senior year. But yeah, I would say it definitely starts in middle school.
I couldn't agree more. We have tried to get that word out to, so I'm kind of in a weird situation. So I'm actually a federal employee, and I kind of just manage the day-to-day of the Soil Conservation District, which is a subdivision of the state. So we're in the same office together. I sort of manage the Soil Conservation District, but then I also have my federal duties too. So it's kind of a balancing act all the time. So with the Soil Conservation District, that is who hires a CWE student. And so we kind of all pick that person together. But one thing that CWE student can't fulfill is our seasonal work also. However, it's kind of hard to explain. You have all of these different facets that we need to fill, and it's hard to, I don't even know how to explain it. It's hard to find one person to fill all of those facets. So we're always trying to find different people for these different positions. So Soil Conservation District, we have our seasonal help where, we need a drill driver. We need a tractor driver for the trees and the grass, all that stuff. And our CWE student, when we're doing that stuff, they're still in school, so we have to have outside help for that too. So in years past, so prior to 2019, our office didn't have interest in a CWE student because of that. Well, that's kind of narrow thinking, wouldn't you agree? Because we have to think ahead. What if that person really does decide that they like what we do and want to come back?
Mhm.
So we kind of switched gears back in 2019, and we thought we have to really, like what you said, you have to think forward, and you have to really not so much attack those kids at middle school, but go and visit with them and be like, this is a fun job. You should try this. Because if you're talking to them when they're in college, it's way too late. It's way too late. They've already kind of decided their path. And so what we have started doing is really starting in 6th grade is to talking to these kids about future careers. So I agree with you. Middle school is where you need to really visit with them. And so we've tried to focus on that as well. But CWE, we started in 2019 and we'll never go back. We absolutely love it. Some of those kids have returned. They've worked for us for seasonal help, come back for a summer and helped us. They've recruited their friends to come and help us, which is so awesome. Some have recruited their fathers and their mothers to come and help us. Oh, we'll take whole families, absolutely. Another thing that we've noticed with CWE is it's very competitive now. It used to be where there would be, kids that didn't get a job because there wasn't enough spaces. And now it's completely the other way. Where an example, we didn't get one this year because there was a lot of employers and it's really competitive. So we just didn't have one that was able to be placed with us. But next year we have, we're going to try at the career fair this year and try to get someone this year. We've got 3 applications, so we're excited about that. But I want to talk too about another area that we've kind of been very lucky with. In 2020, we all know what happened in 2020, right? We had some kids that were at home, not going to school. And so we finally got some people to come and plant trees for us and do some seeding for us. And then the following year, when they all went back to school, we realized there was a market there where we hadn't seen was the awesome community of homeschool students that we have in McKenzie County. So we started utilizing the homeschool students, and what amazing kids they are too. They don't have the opportunity to do CWE. However, we've kind of created our own little CWE with those students. So most of our tree planters and drill drivers are homeschool students, and we just absolutely love them and absolutely love the relationship that we've made with them, as well as having a CWE student. So just, I think you said it too, we have to really think outside the box because you have to be competitive and you have to not just do the same thing that you've always done. We have to really change. 2 years ago, it didn't work, or something worked and now it doesn't. So yeah, it's been good.
I think it's you kind of touched on something too when you talk about competitiveness, how kids view their experience is not singular. So it's not I think sometimes when employers hear competitiveness, they think of compensation or salary. But what are the things as employers of CWE students that you've brought and in, receiving, I would suppose, evaluation information back from them? What are kind of the key ingredients to having a good experience that grows a lifelong relationship that turns into a people pipeline?
I love that. Do you want me to take that one first?
Yeah,
Okay. One of the evaluations that we got back that I never thought of, and I would not have known had we not got that evaluation, was that the student really wished that they had a desk of their own. And how sad that I didn't recognize that they needed that ownership of our office. Just that simple hour-and-a-half spot at a desk is what they were wanting. So we pivoted. We made a spot for our CWE student. We got a computer for them. They got an email. They had almost like a to-do list every single day that they just felt ownership in what we did. And, I had never thought of that had I not saw that evaluation. So that was very interesting. Another thing that we do is, they have the same duties that they have to do every single day. But then now we're just creating this job shadow for a whole entire year. Okay, I'm going to go out and calibrate the drill. You're coming with me. I want you to learn. Or, hey, I need to make this grass seed mix. Come sit at my computer. You need to learn. You need to learn how to do the soils, etc. Just recently, I was at a basketball tournament, and a mom of one of our past CWE students came up to me, and she said, I just wanted to let you know that my son was driving down the road one day, and he said, Mom, do you see those trees over there? I helped plant those trees. That is so cool.
So not even plant them. He helped plan them.
He helped plan them.
Excellent.
So now every time he drives by those trees, he thinks to himself, I did that. And so when you give him ownership in what you do, it really goes a long way. That's the biggest thing that we've learned over the last 5 years. Mm-hmm.
Can I add to that? One of the things that we hear, especially from the younger generations, is they want to make a difference. What they're doing, they need to know why they're doing it. And so that's some of the things that we do encourage the employers. It's like, get them in, get them involved, make them understand how they may not feel like what they're doing is really important, but that is a stepping stone, and that makes a big difference for the rest of the job that they have to do. So that's it. Making a difference is a huge thing right now.
I think your point, Susan, that different workforce generations are driven by different priorities. And so being a Gen X, it was like, how much do I get paid?
Yep.
And the upcoming workforce is so mission and driven.
And work-life balance. That's a huge thing too as well.
Yeah.
So just paying attention to who you are, because how you are recruiting somebody might be different compared to somewhere else that you go. You have to really pay attention to who you're recruiting and what you're looking for.
That's so true.
Yeah. And maybe Chelsea can touch a little bit on this, because you are bringing up in your story things that I think as a small business, you will wait for the right team member.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about CWE, how you connect, how you bring that mission-focused work to the experience that the students are having?
Yeah, I mean, of course, dental care, everybody understands the mission behind it. But, for our students, they can't do a lot of things that they want to do. They need the licensing to be able to go do x-rays or certain dental procedures. But I just kind of constantly check in with them. And I ask them what they're enjoying about their job, what they want to learn still. And I learn a lot about what they think they're doing and how they're participating in the dental field. I learn a lot about their perception of dentistry. I think a lot of people don't understand how physically taxing it is on your body. And so I like to check in with all of my new employees after a couple of weeks. They usually tell me how exhausted they are, how they go home and they're so exhausted, but especially our CWE students. And as the months go on, most of them have pivoted careers. By the time, Christmas hits, they've decided this is not the career for them. So we pivot and we, give them more office work, or the school hates it when I do this, but I call them and I say, she really wants to be a teacher. I think you should transfer her back to the school district and have her shadow as a teacher. And they don't like it when I do that, but I just think it's the best for the student when we're pivoting through their career like that. But for our students, it's easy for them to see the impact they're having on patients, but it's harder for them to see the impact that they're having on the office until we feel comfortable enough bringing them in to assist the doctor. And they, like I said, they can't do a lot of the dental assisting work that requires licensing. So it's a challenge, but just constant communication with them and pivoting when they're changing career paths in the middle of their CWE program.
It's definitely an investment. There's no question about that.
That's
but
true.
I think of the bigger, the snowball that it builds, the opportunity for a student to learn that this is something that they don't want to pursue is really providing them an opportunity to look at a different pathway or different avenue.
And doing that before they're, in college, especially if they're wanting to go into dental hygiene, there aren't many other career opportunities for them in Wahpeton. So before they moved all the way to Wahpeton and, decided after their first semester that they don't want to do hygiene anymore, I love that they get the opportunity to do that in our office and then change
really
their school
neat.
choices before they're moved into a new community.
I love that you were, unselfish enough to call the school and say, hey, we want to keep them. However,
Yes.
it's just not in their best interest. So that does take some,
Yeah.
That's part of growing
unselfishness.
is learning what you don't want to do. Too.
Yeah.
Right. And and I think that's the best opportunity that CW provides our students is getting a real life look into the career. And it's happened twice, and we loved both of those students. The first time it happened, she worked for us starting in June before school started and all the way until January. And that's when I called Mr. Wisness at the time. And I said, she just doesn't want to do this. She's not learning anything here for the next few months. So he did agree to transfer her out. And then it happened one more time. And we came to rely on both of those students. But it was just a better choice for them to go explore another career. And my hope was they would go do that other career and then be like, oh, no, I really did like dentistry. So far that hasn't happened. But I think they have to see all the opportunities.
Or even option B, they don't go back, but they come back to the community. So
Right.
they
Another win.
hit an elementary classroom or, something along those lines. We get them back.
Right.
We want them back.
Right.
I think something that I had forgotten the first couple times we had a CW student was we are most of their first bosses. And so they really don't know how to act. They don't know what to ask and what to say and when to request a day off or, should I tell Nikki that I ran into the garbage or, things like
I
that.
just dented the dumpster.
It's their first time. And so you being that person to not overreact or to just calmly be like, okay, that's fixable.
Right.
That can be fixed. But I remember one of the first ones we had, I knew that they were going to be going to this tournament. And so, but it was on the calendar that they were going to be working. And so I thought, I'm just going to sit down. So are you going to this tournament? Oh, yep. I said, okay, so what you need to do is you need to say, hey, I can't be here these days. Oh, okay. They just didn't know.
Right.
You don't think of it when you're young and, their brains are still developing at that age. So you need to help them. Yeah.
So I have a 16-year-old at home.
So a nice 16-year-old.
So let's pause on that just briefly because there's something I definitely want to go back to and talk a little more about the program for the benefit of employers that aren't currently participating. But before we do that, Susan, can you talk a little bit to employers listening and really kind of weighing, I guess, options or different workforce avenues into how they get people into the positions that they are trying to fill, both from a long pipeline to I need this person tomorrow. Like, can you kind of provide what you see from a workforce scenario or situation Western North Dakota?
And that's always kind of a challenge. Right now, Western North Dakota, we are in that we need them right now. But one of the things that we're trying to do, and we're going to do this now with our job fair, we're holding a HR hiring manager roundtable for about a half hour before the job fair starts, just to get the individuals together to do some brainstorming in regards to what's working, what's not working, where are you going, how is it working. Somebody such as yourselves would be very, very useful to be there because there's a lot of employers that don't understand these type of programs, and being able to hear that they actually work because it is outside of what they're used to doing and outside of what they're used to experiencing, or maybe they had a bad experience. So just hearing something like that. And then what we'll do is once we have that roundtable, we're going to try to do quarterly meetings at the job service and just bringing people together. We'll do it both virtually and in person, whoever can attend. I think it would be very, very helpful. One of the things that we try to do too with the hiring managers or anybody that's HR is to talk about you're not just hiring that employee to fill that spot right now. You've got to look at building your base, looking at the future, looking at what you've got for the workforce, because as you said, Vawnita, there's a lot of individuals that are looking at retiring and moving on or growing. And so what are you doing to provide and build that spot? It's easier to get those individuals and train them and keep working with them to get them into that spot where you want them. So that's some of the things that we're learning. I think COVID did us no service at all in regards to hiring and retaining employees, because it just had to change that whole mindset of where we're at. So that's some of the avenues that we're looking at in regards to what can we do to help you as employers. That's why we're trying to be more open about sponsoring hiring events or promoting the hiring events. Social media, we found, is a huge thing. And it's not just what you guys are putting out there, but we can also do it on our Facebook page. And then as soon as we put it out there, we let you guys know, and you can share it wherever you want to. We are finding that the print media is just not doing it anymore for us. We're trying to do more social media. I do have to do a little plug. The RWIP grant that was available through the state of North Dakota, we work with economic development in the Western region, economic development. And they put in and they were able to get this grant for us. Since we're a state agency, we cannot manage those funds. So we have them as a fiduciary partner. Last fall for the job fair, we spent over $25,000. This one coming up now in the spring, we have another $25,000 to spend. What we did is my staff and we sat down and we looked at all of the unemployment rates throughout the nation, drilled it down into the cities in regards to the zip codes, which ones had the highest unemployment rate. And then we also looked along the train line from Chicago to the western side of the United States. And so we're trying to advertise there. We're drilling down in regards to healthcare, IT, agriculture, CDL, manufacturing, all of that. So we're drilling it down. And so we've been working with Midco, and our advertising is going to go out on the 28th of February, and it's going to go nationwide. There's probably over, I would say, 32 different, there's about 14 different states, and probably 32 to 40 different counties or cities that we're hitting in regards to this advertising.
Wow.
So we're trying to put the word out there, make it easier for people to understand why they want to come to Williston. Then on top of it all, we are also having community partners participate in this. So then when the job seeker comes in and wants to move to North Dakota, they can get some more information about what Western North Dakota can offer, and how can they go back and convince their partner to move here? Because there's a lot of wonderful things. So we're trying to get that all coordinated together.
Wow.
Did that answer the question? I kind of went off on a tangent.
No, it
That
did.
was good.
It did.
You answered a lot of my questions.
And so one of our large employers in McKenzie County, we have conversations oftentimes because they're growing very rapidly right now. And I'm like, how are you doing it? And really it's conversations about what you just kind of hit on, and it's transition plans to upscaling and being able to backfill and having those conversations with employees, and taking the time to sit down and have those longer term transitional plans has provided this employer the opportunity to grow in a way that other employers are struggling. So not all HR approaches or people pipeline building is created equally. And so strategies for being able to.
Yes. And some of the things that we have found too is because of COVID and some of how it affected those that did retire early, a lot of them are coming back, if nothing else, part-time. And then we have another program that works with individuals coming out of the prisons that might have a record. And so we have a bond program through the state that we can help assist with this too. So that's some of the information we're trying to get out to employers. Yes, you have a full-time position. Would you be interested in taking 2 retirees to fill that as part-time, to fill that as a full-time position? Are you willing to work with somebody that has a record if we can do this bond that is at no cost to the employer to bring them in? So there's different programs out there that are available. So that's part of what we're trying to do now at Job Services, get that information out, get you guys involved.
Pushing the word out. Yes, very innovative things that have come out of Job Service North Dakota lately. And so, we're all excited to help with that process.
Well, we're all in this together.
Yeah,
we really are.
Absolutely.
I have some other, I do want to give you guys, there's no hope here right now. It feels like it, but we have over 15,000 open positions across the state of North Dakota. So you all are not alone in facing this. So the statistics are showing that for every 100 positions that we have open in the state of North Dakota, we have 30 people to fill them. So that's why we were able to take this grant and try to get outside of the state, seeing what we can do, because there's a lot of economies that are really depressed and a lot of high unemployment rates. So we are seeing if we can get them enticed to come up here.
Wow.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It really is. My niece lives in Iowa, and she's an engineer. And so, of course, my first thought is, ooh, come to work for North Dakota NRCS engineers we need. And, there's just not many jobs down there. So maybe there's hope just to get that word out there and get them to move up here.
So we need to find her a house.
Yes,
That's
we
what
do.
I'm hearing.
Yes.
Which is a whole nother topic.
Yeah, that's another podcast.
That's the next podcast.
The next 5. But yes.
So true.
Yes.
That's a whole
Opportunity.
nother, yeah. And that has been something we've had to be creative on. So with the federal aspect, so I work for USDA, which of course we're not hiring right now because that's on freeze, which, okay. But there's just one guy and myself that work in McKenzie County for USDA NRCS. And there are so many positions open. It's unbelievable. I don't know the number, but I think we're 40% not.
Open positions.
Yeah, that's how much we have open.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
In
in
the
North Dakota.
in the state.
Yeah. But that is such a hard thing to fill because that's all USA jobs. So, even if I find the perfect person and, they have a house and they're moving in and hire them, they have to get by this USA job. So sometimes there's so many roadblocks, but just got to be creative. Got a great guy that works with us now. So we're so lucky with that and hope he stays forever. So if you have a house for him,
We're working
and
on
maybe
it.
like a nice lady friend or something like he's gonna kill me.
Yes. Keep him de-identified.
Yes, that's right.
Yes. Okay, so back to, we'll get him off the hook.
Yeah, let's
Nikki.
do that.
Back to, the old adage of you get out of something what you put into it. Mr. Wisness, the CWE program coordinator, director, when I reached out to him, I said, what 2 employers should I reach out to? And he said, Nikki Darrington and Chelsea Bulzomi. So
He's so nice.
he is, and runs a very great program.
We'll have to give him $1 later. Something, yeah.
A pop, a soda,
yeah,
a
that's a
dirty
good idea.
soda upstairs.
There you go.
But what can you share about how you invest into the program? And I'll just a little side note. I know for sure, Nikki, you come in and talk to the students at the school and at the Buccaneer Skills Center about some of the, expectations that employers have for employees. Can you guys share a little bit about what you do to invest into the program to strengthen it, grow it, and keep it sustainable?
I love that. Do you want to go?
Yeah, sure. I guess I serve on the Health Careers Advisory Committee, which I love because I get to work with Julie Dragseth on, what we can offer the students, but also what we expect of the students. So we meet twice a year, I think. But otherwise, yeah, we do go. We spend most of our time at the Basque with the Health Careers students. We also go and we, in a couple weeks, I think it is, we're meeting we have a doctor, an assistant, and a hygienist going to present just what is dentistry? What do we do on a day-to-day basis? And then we participate in the Job Shadow program, which is one of my favorite things. It's like, because there's so many students come through the door and you have an idea of what they're expecting to see that day. And then, a couple hours later, you get to talk to them about what they actually did that day. And then, of course, the CW program, which is where most of our time is invested. And, monetary. We do pay our CWE students, which I think is unique to McKenzie County. But yeah, that's where we spend our time and our money.
Yeah, a lot of what Chelsea said, we go into the classrooms and visit about our career We try to get, when they're freshmen, to talk to them a lot, try to, see if there's any kids involved in agriculture and if they're excited to come in. So we do that quite often, usually every quarter. And then we don't go to the Basque and talk a lot into specific classes. Rachel, Michael, Jill, Leach, Scott Wisness have all been just so wonderful to work with. They are so helpful. They always, if they have a student that is really interested in what we do, I get an email from them, which is, that's so cool that they're thinking ahead like that. We have this person next year that's really interested in what we do, and they've all talked to me about her. And it's just really neat to see that they're so invested in these kids, but not only the kids, but they're invested into the employers here in McKenzie County. So I love that. Let's see. CWE Fair, that's coming up. A lot of times we like to have our CWE student come and sit with us for a while. And I mean, they really think it's fun to interview the next generation, or they'll talk to their friends. And I think going back to the people pipeline that you talked about, I don't think that we understand how the friend portion really does play a lot into this too. If you have someone that really didn't like their job, they're telling their friends. So we got to stay on their good side. And if they like their job, they're going back to their friends and the friends' parents and their friends' siblings and saying, hey, you really want to work at the Soil Conservation District. They have so much fun and they're just such great people. You don't want them to say the latter, So I think that people pipeline is such a big deal. So not only like Basque and going to the school and CWE, but going to different, the Farm and Ranch show or going to any kind of career fair or something that they have where you can get your name out there is very valuable. And there's so many opportunities here to do that. So,
and I love the job fair. It's kind of like my evaluation on how and how many students come up and say like, oh, so-and-so was your student 2 years ago and they said, I need to come talk to you. I always feel like that's when we learn if we're succeeding or not.
I agree.
So I suspect I should know this date, and I don't. Do you guys know what the scheduled date is of the interview and job fair this year?
Is it the 6th?
We just got the email about
I think it's
it
March
last
6th.
week.
I'm pretty sure it's March 6th.
Okay, so
like from 1 to 3, March 6th, because I had to move our board meeting. I'm pretty sure it's Thursday.
Okay.
Thursday, March 6th, 1 to 3.
So the first week of March. And I remember Mrs. Leach saying that employer profiles had to be established and the opportunities loaded by the last week of February to give them a week to organize that. So that will be coming up a week after this podcast drops. So
and that's so fun. It's so fun to see the kids, and some are so scared. They've never done an interview before and they're just wide-eyed and don't know what to say. And so we just give them candy and try to make them feel comfortable. And yeah, that's fun.
So if there are students picking up the podcast and listening, what would you say to students?
I mean, I would say just come chat with me. I always have fun. Everybody always stops by our booth because we, usually give out chapstick and everybody needs some chapstick. But, last year I spent a long time talking to Addison George, which I know she was on a couple of weeks ago. And I knew she didn't want a career in dentistry. We all know that she has other plans, but it's fun to sit down, connect with the next generation, learn what they're up to. And, even if your paths aren't going to cross in CWE, they're going to cross in the future. So sit down and get to know the employers and get to know the students. And it's just a fun day.
It's kind of fun. So for me, I rent out tuxedos for prom and stuff too. So I know a lot of the boys that are at this job fair. And so they'll be like, oh, what are you doing here? They think I'm here for tuxedos. And it's like, no, I'm here for the Soil Conservation District. So that's always kind of fun. But just to get to visit with the kids and see what they're interested in. These kids are so lucky for the opportunities that they have. And I'm not saying we didn't have opportunities. We did, but not as much at all.
And they were not being presented to us in middle school.
No.
I mean, I remember getting to college and trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And kind of, I could not get a job. And I knew that I wanted business hours. And so I kind of created my own CWE program. I was a business major, thought I wanted to do marketing. And I went to my future employer and I just asked them, like, can I just come work here? I don't really know what I can do, but, I think I can be helpful. And in that, I went and I worked for their marketing department, their IT department, their accounting, and then eventually became their HR department. And I remember it very vividly. My boss, the marketing manager, because I was a marketing major, and she came to me after like 6 months and she goes, I just don't know if you've realized this yet, but you don't enjoy marketing and you need to find a new career path. And so I did, but I was able to stick with the same company. And I just wonder where I would be if I wouldn't have had that job opportunity to learn what I wanted to do as a freshman in college, and how lucky these kids are that they get to start exploring that in middle school. And, they get to start setting up their high school career path. And of course, they can always change directions, but, just start learning what opportunities are out there. I didn't even know what opportunities there were when people had asked me when I was younger, well, what are you going to be when you grow up? It's like, I don't know. What are my options? Yeah.
I think, too, that because they're so scared, they don't really know what to say or, what to do. And so if you are watching, I encourage you just to come and visit with us. And we are just as excited and maybe a little nervous, too, to meet you. But one of the things that really impressed me last year was some of the kids that had brought their resume with. They had come and they brought their resume. So I think that's really fun. I think that's really neat. You can see everything that they've done and what they think their good qualities are and what they want to learn. And I think that's really neat and super good for the future for them to learn. They're doing so much of that in the school now, is the resumes and interviews and
and put themselves out there. Don't be afraid to put themselves out there.
Right? Absolutely. Yep.
And, they always come in a big group with their friends. And I would just say, maybe break off and explore, what you want to do. Because I always find there's, one ringleader and they're always following, her friends are always following around that ringleader and learning about what she's going to do. But they do need to, build up the courage and go talk to employers that they're interested in. So
we had one person come last year, was not an agriculture kid at all. Not that you need to be in ours, but, had no idea what we did. And he came and sat down and he said, so what do you guys even do? And I thought that was so cool. So we sat and visited. He said, that's kind of fun. Maybe that's something I would like to do. So he actually visited with me. He took some ag classes in college and he didn't turn out going down that road. But what if he did really enjoy it and decided to go down that road just because he was brave enough to sit there and ask the hard questions? So I thought that was pretty
being
neat.
Approachable as employers. That's a big thing.
Absolutely.
That's some of the stuff that we see at job fairs is if somebody's sitting there and they're sitting behind that table on the phone or on the computer and they're not making eye contact, they're not going to have somebody stop and talk to them because everybody's afraid to do that.
Right.
So being approachable is a huge thing.
I always tell employers to stand in front of the table. Don't sit behind the table in a chair. Stand in front of the table and make sure you're drawing people,
That's a good point.
the students in, because they're there to learn and they just need to, sometimes you just need to make eye contact with them and make sure that they feel comfortable coming up to you. And I think they're required to talk to 3 employers, so that helps. They have their checklist and you have to sign
this card.
Can you sign this for me?
Which is good that they do that.
Right.
So I think if Mr. Wisness was here today, he would acknowledge and be very excited about the fact that he has Mrs. Leach with him now through statewide grants. I think it was school districts and or regional CWE programs were able to employ work-based learning coordinators. So can you talk at all about how that has changed your experience having Mrs. Leach as part of the program now, which doubled the capacity of Mr. Wisness to be able to connect, respond, get kids aligned with experiences. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, for us, we're really lucky because she's a formal dental assistant. So
oh my goodness.
She knows exactly what we need.
You're very lucky.
Yes. to work with Jill is just, it's really nice because she knows what we need and she directs the students to us that she knows is serious about a career in dentistry. We're a very popular spot to stop for the job fair. And a lot of girls particularly want to be dental hygienists. And it's a tough career to get into because there's a bottleneck to go to school for hygiene right now. Hopefully that's changing next year, but right now there's a bottleneck. So she just helps me kind of narrow that pool of candidates down and then helps me, learn a little bit more about any students I'm not familiar with. The past 2 years, she's emailed me after we've hired our CW student. She's told me, I just really have this student that did not get placed, and I think she has a career in dentistry. So we've actually had 2 CW students the past couple of years because she's directed those students to us, which is great for us, but also, it's just invaluable to those students to be placed when they didn't have an opportunity before sitting down with her.
I just feel that she has the perfect job for her. She's so good at it, so nice and kind, and just really has the best interest for those kiddos. I know she's taken a lot out of the plates of the guidance counselors, off their plates of the guidance counselors, which is great because they're so busy. And Scott having her, you can just see that he's excelling in his position too. So I think that it's been very valuable having her, and just doing all of them together are doing a better job of getting these kids where they need to be just for their success in the future. Yeah.
And she comes once a year and checks in on the kids, and we sit down and we talk about next year, and she always brings the job description, and we make little tweaks to it before the job fair, and she's very proactive in getting ready for next year as well.
I love that.
So if there are employers out there that haven't participated in the program before, what would you share with them?
I guess I would just ask them why they're not. It's not a huge commitment, especially if you just start with job shadowing or just come to the job fair. I think the students will talk you into a CW student. They're very good at that. But just bring in some students for a job fair. It's fun, to stay connected with high school students. It keeps you young.
That's true.
I think a lot about, when I was your age, I probably thought that too. But it's a lot of fun to sit there and talk to them, to learn what's going on within the school. I learn a lot about our community. I consider myself, pretty connected to the community, but I'm still learning from the high school students all the time on just activities and things going on throughout the county. So why aren't you? Even if you don't think you have an opportunity for them, just go talk to some students and see if maybe you can, help create or help recruit your future workforce, because
it's a good way to put it.
And help build, all these students are going to go out and represent McKenzie County, and you want them to put our best foot forward. They're representing our community when they go off to college. And so, just do your best to help build them, and then, hopefully bring them back, because if they see the support that we saw growing up here, then they'll want to come back here as well.
I love that. Amen to everything she just said.
And I think something about that too is, in the past, like when I was growing up, it was go to college, get a 4-year degree, and now we're going more into the trades, more into some of this, and having that access, it's giving kids opportunities that they'd never had before.
Right. Yeah. And in the trades, if you're not participating in the CWE program, you're counting on a different employer who is participating in the CWE program to grow your future workforce. And don't you want to do that yourself? I know we prefer to, train our own dental assistants. I assume other industries do as well, that they're going to learn how to best, work in your office than they are going to in a competitor's office. So.
I think the big misconception is, I already have all of these employees. It's so hard to manage them now. I don't want another, young kid that I'm going to have to train. But you really just can't think like that.
Right.
And two, the job shadowing if you start out doing that and then everything else just falls into place and it happens way more naturally than you would think it does. I know when we first started, we thought, how are we going to keep this person busy? And, we have a lot of things, but there's things that you need licenses for, or you need a special, approval to do this and that kind of thing. But we have had just the best help on everyday things. And those people would not have had that had we not started the CWE program. So I'm so thankful for it.
I think employers are scared of kids.
I think you're right.
I think when they hear
They're
the word
so
teenager,
honest.
yeah,
It's so
and when they
true.
hear the word teenager, it's a little
Mhm.
frightening for people.
Yeah, it's so true.
Mm-hmm.
I think that so for the employers out there listening, there is Dawn Almer. She is the North Dakota CTE Strategic Projects Manager. And what she really does is she works with throughout the statewide, and helps employers understand how they can participate in CWE experiences. Or state level, they call it work-based learning. But nonetheless, we will drop this information in the show notes. But she's put together a little toolkit, toolbox of what employers who are considering participating need to know. And there are definitely exemptions or things that don't apply to employers when you are engaged in a work-based learning contract in terms of liability insurance. And there's definitely responsibility for the safety of those students. But I think there's a lot of opportunity there that a lot of times employers just think that they cannot offer an experience, which is simply not true. So we'll definitely drop that website into the show notes so employers can go back and look at that. We'll also drop for our local employers who are tuning in, Jill Leach's email address, and also the CWE business application to be able to enroll as a CWE employer. And you all are probably seeing this or experiencing this, but in Watford City High School, we're going to see between this graduating class this year and next year's graduating class a large increase in student numbers. And so I know, Nikki, you said you didn't have a student that aligned or didn't get a student this year, but there's definitely going to be a demand moving forward as we get into what's currently the junior class and the sophomore class and the freshman class, because they're much larger than the class we're graduating this year. So more opportunity or more needed opportunities for students to be able to participate in that. So we'll definitely share all that information along in those show notes. If we go around the table, is there anything? Okay, so we have employers out there, we have students out there listening, we might have some parents out there listening.
Yeah, good idea.
Yeah, what can we tell parents? And I might even take a turn on this trip around because like I said, I have a 16-year-old and we've had a wonderful experience so far. So, but let's start over here, Nikki, with you.
Okay, so a couple of things. So like I had said, we didn't align with anyone this year. And we did have one kid that had applied, but I knew what he wanted to do was not what we had to offer him. And so like you, we didn't turn him away. We said, hey, we will take you, but it's not going to be in his best interest. And I'm really thankful that we did, because he is super exceeding his expectations in his career right now. I can see where he's going to go. He's going to do a great job. So I'm glad it didn't work out. Sad for us, but it worked out how it was supposed to. One other thing I wanted to say too, my husband with his business, Darrington Snow Removal, he started having CWE students as well. And he was very skeptical. He was like, our business is out of town. They're not going to want to do this. He had the best employee who now currently works for us after high school, after college. How cool is that? That is such a success. Not to toot my husband's own horn, but way to go. That's so cool. It's just how it's supposed to work out. But if I was a parent, I would definitely talk to your child about this. This is such a good opportunity. Speaking from experience, I did it. Now I managed it. I just absolutely love it. If I was an employer, again, take advantage of this. Take advantage of this amazing opportunity to grow your business, to grow your future. I think it's very important. And if you are a kiddo listening to this and you don't know what you want to do, take this opportunity and talk to every table. Go to every table and you might hear something that you really, oh, my ears perked up there. I really am excited about that. I really do want to make grass seedings for ranchers. Okay, well, come and talk to us, So there's just so many opportunities, and I think that you should all take advantage of that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I guess to our past students' parents, I just say thank you, because we've had nothing but amazing experiences. And, we've gotten to know some great kids the past 5 years.
If that isn't the truth, I think kids get such a bad rap. But we've had the best kids.
They're great.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess what I take away from the CWE program as a parent is just exposing my kids to all the different career opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
I remember going to both of my parents' offices when I was young, and I learned so much about, my future career, just from sitting in their office doing my homework or, whatever it was I was doing. But these kids have some tough choices to make starting in middle school. And that's so different than, how when we were growing up. And I just think, start exposing them to different career paths now and help them out.
And support them. I think that's the biggest thing with the parents is support them and encourage them. We have our WIOA program, some of these things that will help these students and help employers federally to help pay for some of this. So that's some of the things that we're trying to do is get out and get more information to the employers so they can see that there is benefits to this. But I do see on the flip side with some of these students that come in and want to be involved, the employer or the parent support sometimes is not there or they don't understand. So I encourage the parents, get involved, learn a little bit more about it, understand how this is going to benefit, because you're not just raising a child, you're creating an adult that's going to go into our workforce and help them. So that's my encouragement for the parents.
I have Nikki, Chelsea, you serve on the advisory committees for the program. I actually have the opportunity of serving on the advisory committee for the career development tracks. And so get to meet with the guidance counselors and the principals on what we should be laying out for curriculum in terms of career development. And I learned last year about the 4-year rolling plans. And I think a lot of parents don't understand what the 4-year rolling plans are. I did not until last year. But now they're incorporating those. Every student has a Compass Golden Pass Solutions account, and they're implementing those 4-year rolling plans into their accounts. And so it helps them lay out. It's not just, they start in 7th grade and they go through, they're always looking 4 years ahead up to their senior year. So 4 years into post-secondary potentially. But for parents, have those conversations with your kids. Because after I learned about it, I sat down with Kyle and I said, let's look at your 4-year rolling plan. And it was a little bit here and there. And so we were able to kind of sync that up into, what his aptitudes are, what his interests are. And so parents, key into those 4-year rolling plans and have those conversations. Because again, the guidance counselors, I don't know how many kids they're responsible for, but it's more than, the parents have to take an ownership in that as well, because it's overwhelming for them to be able to do all of that. One other thing that our school district participates in is the T4 summit every year. And so definitely parents, listen to your kids when they come home from that. And they're going to have some stories about certain presentations they liked, things that were interesting to them. But take the opportunity to kind of grow that conversation into some sort of future plans for career exploration, because I think that's probably a lot of kids' first experience with it. And it's happening in elementary school and junior high. And so those conversations can start early. And that's exciting that you get to have those with your kids because they're experiencing them. A quick shout out, going back to junior high, 7th and 8th grade, Miss Dragseth, at the time now Mrs. Delk, she had an assignment for her agriculture students, and it was to do a career shadow. So my son came home and said, "Hey, Mom, I'm going to spend President's Day shadowing Dad." And I'm like, "What does that mean?" "We're going to go feed the bulls." "Oh, would you not do that anyway?" And he's like, "Yeah, but I'm going to get credit for it." And I said, "Let's take a pause. What would you really like to, you have these journals of John Deere equipment that you're drawing out in engineering and all of the things." And so he ultimately ended up calling Gooseneck up in Williston, and they spent the entire day with him. And he was
so cool.
able to shadow all of the departments there and meet with their location manager.
That's neat.
And their location manager shared his path to where he was. And so that was really inspirational to Kyle and very meaningful to him to have that opportunity. But yeah, it took a day to drive up to Williston and do that, but it was a good investment in the future of, his journey in career exploration.
So Grayson did my office, but I told her she couldn't be with me. Like, you have to be with girls and the others. And so she went around and they did so many things. And that was the day where flat tires and people got lost. And, you see real life happen. So I love when they job shadow. I job shadowed in, I think it was 7th grade, Dr. Ramage. I wonder if he remembers this. If you're watching, Dr. Ramage, this is for you. I job shadowed with him because I wanted to be a nurse. And he pulled something out of someone's ear and I passed out. And he said, "I wonder if you should maybe think of a different career."
Yeah, we
And I
do
did.
have a lot of students
Do you?
pass out. Yeah, I'll kind of stop in the middle of their job shadow and they're in the back just having a little snack break. I warn every single one of them before they start. They say, "Oh no, I'm great with blood," and then Monty will say, "Yeah, why don't you go in the back for a little bit
before we lose you." That's great. It's better to learn now.
Yes.
I have a brother-in-law who is a medical doctor, and he had classmates that were not in their first year of medical school, but realizing these things. And you have already invested,
Some time and money there.
both. Yes.
Oofta.
So it's great to learn that when you're,
I will say we have had several of our greatest employees, former employees and current employees, who could not handle their first couple of weeks in the office.
That's interesting.
And they ended up having great careers. So I think you would have made a great nurse.
Oh, that's very kind of you.
That's cool. The one other thing I was just going to share before we go around the table one last time to share out any last thoughts is, so I'm employed by the city of Watford City, and the Watford City has had a history of hosting both business track CWE students and also engineering students. And so there are a handful that come to my mind that I just want to give shout outs to, because I know that the experiences there brought them back to the community or have created pathways for them that they got into it, they enjoyed the work, and now they're really excelling in their next steps. And so Sydney Stanford, that girl was in our business track at City Hall. Jaden Ulick, she is still with the city, employed by the city. Derek Holland is actually at BSC, but engineering tracked, and he actually came back this year to do a fairly decent sized project for our engineering department. When he's not in school, he's coming back and working on that. So that's great. That's cool. And then our office, our community development office, is a combined city-county office. And so I actually share workspace with Aiden Pelton, who is actually McKenzie County Economic Development student. But we have a wonderful time, talking through projects, city-county combined projects, and he, to the point of, you want to be connected with students because they keep you young and they keep you relevant and they keep you connected. And I expect very amazing things from that young
Very
man.
cool.
So it is
Good group of
rewarding.
kids you just said there. Mm-hmm.
Yep, rewarding. So it's worth the investment. I think the ROI might be a little longer term, to see that return, but it's totally worth it, because that'll be substantial ROI with all of that with all of that opportunity and connection. So I know, Susan, you talked about your job fair coming up. I'm putting you kind of on the spot, but do you want to pitch the time, location, date?
March 27th from 3 to 7 at the Williston State College in the Well. There is a cost to the employers, but no cost to the community partners. And we have the local Courthouse Cafe will be catering for the employers, and because it'll be a long day, you guys can set up at 1 o'clock, and we will have the HR roundtable from 1 to 3, or at 1 to 1:30 up in the Teton room, and then they'll be set up, and so we'll provide the sustenance to keep you going through that. Some of the things that we are trying to do too is some of my staff has come up with some very innovative ideas to capture who's coming through and where they're coming from. Last one we were able to capture, there were 17 states and 3 different countries that came through.
Wow.
We had a couple that I was able to talk to. They came from California. When I went downstairs, they were standing there and they had this deer in the headlight look. And I asked them, how are you doing? What are you looking for? And they're going, well, we're from California. And I said, did you come here specifically for this? And the young girl said, well, no, we just moved up here 2 weeks ago, but my mother heard the advertisement in Southern California, called me up and said, you need to be there. So that's what we're trying to do. So my staff now is trying to figure out a unique way of capturing some more in regards to who they are, where they came from, how they heard about us. So it's exciting. On the other side of things too, with this work-based learning, what we have, those students that you mentioned are very high achievers. They're wonderful. They're on a great path. They have these parents that are really helping them. We have some programs in our office that are federally funded that will help students that are struggling, that can meet certain criteria, and they can help the employers fund it. They can help the parents. They go through some career development, so they kind of help these students learn that are struggling. So we will help. We're there to help the students on the other side that don't quite know where they fit, where they're going, what they need. So that's some of the stuff that we do.
So Susan, if there's parents hearing this, what is the best way to find you or connect with who they need to connect with to access those?
They can call the main office, 701-774-7900, and ask for Catherine or Carrie. They are the ones that are overseeing these programs for us.
Give that phone number one more time.
701-774-7900. That's the direct office, and they have to just ask for WIOA, W-I-O-A. That's the program.
Perfect. Okay, cool. We'll get that in our notes too. Chelsea, Nikki, okay, we're just a little under a month out of interview day. What would you, I know we've kind of talked about, what would you pitch employers and what would you pitch kids?
I mean, employers, I think, just show up and talk to the kids. I be prepared to hire a CWE student because, like I said before, those kids will talk you into it. They're very persuasive.
Yes, they are. Don't sit on your phone.
Right.
Yeah, I love that piece
Make
of
eye
advice.
contact.
Act like you're really excited and
give them a reason to stop and talk to you.
yes. Oh, I love that. That's exactly right. Kids, jump out of your comfort zone. I was a comfort zone person, still kind of am. But you might find something that you had no idea that you loved, and that could be your future just from stepping outside of that box. Same with you parents. Do the same thing. I say that, and I'm like, we're kind of in the same boat. Our kids are about the same age. Scary. It's very scary.
Callie Thorne and I spoke on a producer panel last week with our husbands who were way less excited about the producer panel speaking than we were. But we opened for Temple Grandin. And so all of a sudden we looked, I think I actually asked Ryan, our extension agent, like, what's the audience? And it was the morning of, and he's like, there'll probably be 100 students there or so. And I was like, what do we say profound to them? And thank goodness Callie and I both kind of went back and forth with each other that don't ever be afraid to just explore, explore the opportunities because the one answer to a question never asked is by default, no. So get out there and give employers and kids a reason to say yes to each other and experience the potential alignment that could come from that. And so I know the work that our office does is always about community building and providing a vibrant, accepting community. And I think we can all attest to it. Some of us were longer term boomerangs than others, but now kids have an opportunity to, I mean, you always want to get out and explore a little bit, but you don't have to leave for long, and we certainly want you back. So
Yep.
any last words for getting kids back here?
Oh, man.
I mean, I think Nikki and I both returned. I was away for 12 years. I'm not sure how long you were away from Watford City, but when it was time for us to decide where we were settling down, we just decided Watford City because there's no better place to raise a family, but also get involved and help shape the community that you want to live in. So,
100%.
For kids who are either outside of McKenzie County right now or graduating this year and trying to decide what to do, I would say, go, enjoy your time, but make plans to return home because there's really no better place to live.
We talked about, not having that exact plan of leaving of high school and going to 4 years. It doesn't have to be like that. However, I do very much encourage you to leave, but then come back. I learned so much. So 4 years I went to college, and then 4 years we lived in Iowa, where my husband is from. And the things that I learned there, I wouldn't be able to learn anywhere else. I wouldn't have learned them here. And so that really did give me a new perspective on things. But I was so thankful to come back. My husband and I both realized that this is where we wanted to raise our family. And the opportunities, they are really endless here. If you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to work a 9-to-5 job, city, county government, everyone has your best interests at heart here. So this is where we wanted to be. It's a good community. If you do good things will happen to you. And this is where we'll stay forever. Yeah.
I left, came back after 22 years.
Oh, yeah.
Lived in Denver. I realized Western North Dakota is not so bad. It's a good place to be and bring your kids back to.
Cool.
And if you're my kids, please come home.
When you're done exploring.
When you're done exploring.
Yes. But come home.
Yep.
Okay, Brock, what are we missing, my friend?
It's good to go.
Awesome. Well, I want to just thank you all for joining us today. I want to thank employers for stepping up and investing and pouring into the future generation. We're so excited for what the future holds.
And I would add, McKenzie County is known for, the county, the city, and the school district working so well together. Vawnita, what you're so good at is also recognizing industry, working with those entities. And, but it takes a commitment to, build this community. So, like I said before, if you're not currently hosting a CW student, you really need to, because it's a part of that partnership with the school and the city and the county.
Well said.
Awesome. Yes. Thank you, Chelsea. Absolutely. Susan, thank you for joining us today. We're so
Thank you for having
excited
us.
for our meeting this afternoon. We're very excited for that. I won't let any more out of the bag because I honestly don't know a whole lot more than that, but we're super excited. We really are.
I'm
Yeah,
excited.
nice to meet you.
Yes. same
Yes.
here.
Excellent. Well, until next time, thank you for tuning in to Living in McKenzie County, the podcast.